Hello and welcome to this week's press preview alongside Justin Conn. I'm Aren Dow. We're here. It's week 12 for the quarterfinals, and we still got 4 teams left. And the last couple of weeks I felt like we've seen a lot of similar matchups or matchups that a lot of teams maybe knew something about the other team. And this week I feel like it's a lot of unknown. And we got 2 teams in 2A, and we'll start with one in Tuscola and Chester. And these teams, I think, I didn't do my Google Maps, but I think it's probably 3.5 hours. It's a long, long drive. Chester's about an hour south of St. Louis, about kind of the middle of nowhere. And Tuscola making it back to the quarterfinals.
The only thing I really know about Chester is the home of Popeye. Otherwise, I'm even kind of trying to find some stuff online about them. There's not a lot. There's not a lot there. One thing that we know about Chester is this is the first time they've ever been to the quarterfinals before. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Tuscola has been there a lot, and not necessarily this group, but the coaches, these kids' brothers, and they've been at these games over the years, and I do think that's somewhat of an advantage for Tuscola is that they're not going to be blown away by this atmosphere, and this is going to be at Chester. I don't think that bothers them. Who knows how Chester's handling this? Obviously we don't know that. Having a healthy Nick Bates though has obviously made a huge difference here in the postseason, and you've kind of seen what Tuscola is capable of. But like we'll talk about with all these matchups, as far as kind of feeling like which team has the advantage or how this matches up, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, last week they beat Johnson City, who they had lost to in the regular season. They lost 28-13 in the regular season, and then they won last week 35-7. Now, Johnson City's quarterback was injured early, broke his leg, so it's kind of hard to gauge. But offensively, Chester played much better, so you can kind of, there has been an improvement there. And White ruling at quarterback is kind of the guy that everything kind of, he's kind of a dual threat where can run and pass, and he has a couple wide receivers, including a 6'5" tight end, Jordan Berner, who had some injury problems earlier in the season, came back, had a couple really nice catches and a touchdown in an earlier game. Plays middle linebacker, has made 2 interceptions against Carmel White County in that game, had 14 tackles. So that's a really big kid that Tuscola is going to see, and it's kind of the opposite matchup to where last week Lawrenceville is going to run it all over you, and this week I think Chester's going to air it out a little bit more, and they just have a huge target in Jordan, and I think that's something that Tuscola, I don't know if they've quite seen a wide receiver of that size this season, and obviously, middle linebacker, kind of gauging to see where he's going to go, because he's been a really big threat for them.
Right, so far. And I mean, Chester's not necessarily going to, spread it out and throw it 30 times. I mean, they're still a run-based offense, right. But they will throw, like you said, Lawrenceville is very, very run-based. Another team that's very run-based in the same conference as Lawrenceville is Robinson in Class 3A. They'll go to Mount Carmel, which, Mount Carmel has kind of been on that edge of 3A and 4A over the years. They're a team that's going to throw it quite a bit. They do have a nice balance with running and passing, but I think that could be an issue for a Robinson team where they play in the Little Illini, which is definitely this year predominantly a running conference.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell what kind of team Mount Carmel is, because a lot of teams will play other conferences, and you think, okay, we know this how the Sangamo is or how the South Central, but Mount Carmel plays 6 teams from Indiana, and it's like, okay, well, we don't know much about them. But yeah, they played Breeze Mater Dei, a very good team, and only lost by a touchdown. So I mean, they are obviously, I mean, if you get to this point, you're a good team. But they played Breeze Mater Dei to a touchdown. You talked about they'll throw it a lot, and Pete Smith at quarterback. If I'm taking this from Max Prep, so we'll see, but has over 200 attempts and only 1 interception so far. So, very good decision maker, has a pretty good completion percentage, about 60%, so he's going to make passes. But, they look at the running back, Trevor Kennard, who is just a sophomore and has been, I would say, I was trying to kind of define him, what kind of running back he is, and, watching him and kind of seeing what his tape was like, and it was just a lot of everything. Like he kind of is the jack of all trades, and kind of likes to run between the tackles, but has the speed to get upfield, has great vision. I mean, I couldn't count the number of times, you see, defenders kind of falling over themselves trying to see which way he would go. But he's definitely someone to watch. Has over 1,500 yards this season rushing already.
Mount Carmel has had some success in the playoffs. They were in the quarterfinals last year. They got second in the state in 2011 in Class 3A. They've definitely been more successful when they've been in 3A. And they have a good receiver that Smith can throw to, and Daxton Peach, who I believe is the coach's son. And they play in a sort of a unique stadium, the Snake Pit. It's from what I've heard about this place over the years, or basically they have the fans are very high up and it's sort of looking down on the field. So it's kind of a neat place to play. I don't know that it's intimidating necessarily, but it's if you're a Robinson fan, it should be a good time to go down there and check that out. We know what Robinson has. They have Jason Richard and Joe Smith. A great running game, an offensive line that's really come together here late in the year, and I don't care who you are. Jason Richards a tough matchup. I mean, he's a nasty running back. You're gonna get a lot of knees in your chin, and I mean I do think that gives Robinson like I said, Mount Carmel. I can say kind of on paper you like that balance they have. You like the success they've had, but. I like Robinson, what they've brought this season too. So I think that's kind of a fun one where I can see it going. I won't be surprised with whatever the final score on that one is.
Right, and we talked about this. They played a couple teams in the Little Illini. They haven't really ventured out of that, but they played those teams well on the second time. And it's not like that they've regressed at all. Right. I mean, they played better.
Yeah, they're playing their best football, no question, right now.
So let's jump back down to 2A, and we have Maroa taking on Athens, which is a matchup we'll see here in a couple of years when Maroa enters the Sangamo. But Athens, a team that if you guys know anything about the Sangamo, they a lot of those teams like to run, and Athens is no exception. I mean they will run the ball. And last week they did it against Illini West 52 times for Chris Basso, and I have to think part of that was. They felt like they could run on Illini West, but I think that's also, that's what they like to do.
That's what they do. They ran 84 plays in that game, which is unheard of. I know Illini West had a couple kickoff returns, but which kind of limited their number of plays. But it's a sound strategy in the playoffs, and against a team like Maroa that has a nice offense, you just keep the ball away from them. And one thing about Maroa is they've had. For whatever reason, over the years, they've had a lot of success against Sangamo teams. They've seen, Auburn, Williamsville. They've handled those teams. Athens, no question, has a size advantage, but that's not something that seems to have bothered Maroa. They've faced a lot of teams this year that have been a lot bigger than them and have done pretty well against them. I mean, nobody's really handled Maroa this year. So even in their 3 losses, so I think before the play or when they first announced these playoff brackets. I thought if Maroa could get past that first week, which they did, with flying colors, that they would make state, and I still feel that way. I think this is going to be a tough one. I think this could be the toughest one of the bunch so far, but I still think that at the end of the day, they have the best athlete on the field in Jack Hockaday.
I think Athens, what they do is kind of playing into Maroa's strengths a little bit.
Agreed.
I feel like if they want to run the tackles in, and you can watch Chris Basso on Huddle, 4 minutes of fullback dives, which is not the most entertaining, but definitely sound. But that's what they do, and I think for Maroa, I've been saying this all year. I really like that line. You have those linebackers that are able to plug holes. As long as they can get a push, and that was the thing that Athens did all last week. They got the push. They didn't necessarily open up holes to where they're racking up a whole lot of yards, but they got 4 yards of carry, and that was enough to get a first down.
I would agree, though, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Where that Maroa has done well against these type of teams over the years. John Kidd seems to be very good. Their defensive coordinator is very good at stopping this kind of attack. So. If Athens wants to beat Maroa, they'll have to throw a wrinkle in, no question.
Yeah, and looking at last week, it's always going to be windy. It's always windy in the playoffs, and I think Jack has played in enough games in the wind to where he kind of knows where he should be throwing and where he should not be throwing. I know there was one ball last week that he threw that I don't know if it just slipped out of his hand or what, but he's well versed in playing in very windy games. And I think that's a strength. That they played in these games late into the season, to where they know what these conditions play like and how to handle them.
The other playoff matchup we have is in Class 5A. Taylorville is our first Class 5A team to make the quarterfinals since MacArthur in 2008. So, and a team that's traditionally been 4A. It's been a great run for Taylorville. They'll host the team that most people think is the runaway train favorite in 5A, Springfield Sacred Heart-Griffin. And that's it's a brutal matchup for them. I mean, it's a brutal matchup for everybody in 5A at this point. You have Gabe Green, a quarterback, a Division I quarterback, and you have so many weapons for them. I mean, it's just 6 or 7 different guys where they're going to find the matchup that you can't cover and exploit it. And that's just the way SHG is right now, and it's definitely an uphill battle for Taylorville to hide that.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody who said that they were running a polecat offense, which they really hadn't run for a couple of years, and they just threw it in last week and had a whole lot of success with it. I mean, it's just, and they can kind of run a whole lot of different things, and they'll be fine. And for Taylorville, I mean, this is a team that they've seen. I mean, a lot of these players. Besides some of the younger ones, I mean, they saw them all last year, and SHG has pretty much a similar team as what it was the last year. I mean, a lot of the same players are back. I don't think it's Malik Joyner, someone like that. That's let's go off to Illinois now. But I think for Taylorville, I think that third week of the playoffs. I mean, this is the furthest they've ever gone in program history. The most wins they've ever had in program history. And now you have a team like SHG, and I don't think that Taylorville is going to come in and be like, oh man, SHG. I think they'll be ready to play the game.
I think that is one advantage for them.
Sure.
It's just a 1 year removed now from they were in the Central State 8 last year, so it's not going to be like we've never seen this before. So yeah, but at the same time, they also know
right.
They also know what SHG is capable of, so that kind of can also play on your mind a little bit.
I know when I talked to those guys before the season started, they said they liked playing SHG in Rochester. I mean, they liked that competition to where they kind of saw that top level talent to see how they matched up against them. So it's not something that they're going to be they won't be used to. Right. Taylorville is they're not going to come in deer in the headlights. So I think that'll be. Right out of the gate should be a strength at least. So there are 4 playoff games here in the area, and check out hrpreps.com. We'll have coverage of all 4 games, and so we have football, and that means wrapping up. That means basketball's just about underway, and we got girls basketball tournaments, boys basketball tournaments started. We'll have previews of all. We'll kind of split up into the different classes this year. So make sure that you get the right day, or if you want to see all of them. I mean, we'll have plenty a whole week of preview coverage. So make sure you check out the paper. Our website will have everything on there. We'll see you out of the games.